All right, I've got one of the oddest tips to share with you that you've probably ever seen, but it's gonna help your compression. It's gonna help you gain a little more club head lag or the club trailing or following, which should help us get to a little more leveraged impact position, create a little more power, okay? So I've got my handy dandy pressure mat, my body track pressure mat out here. And one of the first things they teach us in body track certification, right, ground force reactions, is pressure precedes movement. So if I'm gonna throw a punch, you can see before I do anything, I move my pressure. If I'm gonna throw a ball, my pressure moves before the outer limbs move. And that's really hard to do in the golf swing. Many people, when I put them on body track, the first thing they do is they're moving the golf club and there's no pressure moving. Sometimes I'll even see this with, say, 20 handicaps and above. I'll see the arms move on the downswing and you can see there's nothing moving on that pressure mat. So usually in a good swing, you see how the pressure is always moving before the golf club. So there's this real smooth, effortless flow to it, okay? You even see players before they start, when they look really smooth and ready to hit, watch my pressure moving back and forth with the club, and then boom, that goes right into the golf swing, and you still see that same pressure movement or that trace. It's very linear. It's moving dynamically back and forth. And that little white ball is called our center of pressure trace, is always moving before the golf club moves. So you see how it's always ahead of it. Like when I said, when I see these other players and I start to see this, or I start to see that pressure moving with the golf club, I know we're in a lot of trouble. So the drill is very simple, okay? You can kind of watch me demonstrate it, but you just grab your club like this with just your forefinger and thumb, hold it in front of you, and your goal is to move the club without using your hands and arms. So I'm just standing here, letting it hang. I promise I'm doing nothing here, but I'm shifting my pressure back and forth to get the club to move. And you notice it's real subtle. Watch what I do to start. This is called a counter movement. I go forward before I go backwards, before I go through. And that's what great players do. Some people call it a forward press, trigger movement, counter movement, forward, back, through. And when you put that into a golf swing, it just looks lovely. It has a lot of great flow to it, okay? But it's obviously hard to do at first. So what I have most of my students do, once they've done this a number of times, here's the really weird thing with it, is you notice how the club is actually staying back as I come down. It feels like an anti-hit to most people. Anti-hit meaning most people are trying to help the club get to the ball by making it go faster or trying to make it go into the back of the ball so they hit it solid. This feels like you're just leaving it a day late and $1 behind you as you move down and through. So usually the best thing to do is you start off with really small chip shots. So I'm gonna let the club basically just hang from my hands. I'm gonna feel my pressure moving, and then I just chipped it out there. But that's the basic DNA of a great golf swing. Yeah, it's small. Yeah, it's a little exaggerated. I know my normal swing doesn't look like that, but it has that same movement of the pressure moving back first, forward first, and then through and staying forward. That's what allows us to lag the club head. Most people think club head lag starts when you come down and that's how you get lag. It actually starts in your takeaway, and that's where that counter movement is so important. You see how that gets my pressure moving back this way before the club head, and then I can continue to lead with my pressure before I come through. And that's how we gain compression. That's how we get the hands forward. A lot of it is what's called sequencing. Sequencing is just what moves first. Did I move the hands and arms first? Did I move my pressure first? Because that opens up a whole door of once I do this, now I can do this. I can really squat and lean and press and really gain my power from the ground. But first things first, let's do another small one. I'm barely holding onto the club. So for you that have tight grip pressure, this is about a 1 on a scale of 1 to 10. It's almost falling out of my hands. And when I go to move, it almost feels like the club is getting dragged. It's so late. Drag, lag. But that was a pitching wedge. I flighted it about 6 feet off the ground. It actually had a little tiny draw to it. Very nice shot. I know at impact, I must have hit the ball like that. I looked a lot like Dustin Johnson or John Rahm, even though I know I'm nowhere near as good or as strong, but I know how to move my pressure first. And that's what really can help us gain some of those positions that they get into. Once you feel better, you can obviously start to move a little bit more, but just know that literally the golf swing, it starts from your feet. Your feet move your pressure. You see it here? That's where the golf swing starts. Once we learn that and the club head starts to follow or lag, we're in for a whole different golf game, and we're in for a whole lot more compression. I hope you like these videos on compression. If you want to learn more about compression, I've got a whole compression clinic linked below where really I talk a lot about a lot of the same things of how we can hack more power out of the golf swing. When I say hack, I'm like regain an advantage, a competitive edge by how we position the club coming in, how we move our body going through to really gain more power, even if we're not the fittest, strongest, most flexible person in the world. It's really about how we move the club through here, and students are really loving it because they're not changing their whole golf swing, their backswing, their takeaway. It's really just focusing on impact and through. So it's been great. The link is in the description below. I hope you enjoyed that video. I'll see you all next time. Have a great week.